How would Jay-Z have become Jay-Z that he is if it wasn't for Nas and, for Pac and Big being out?
A lot of artists wouldn't be as big as they are if they were here.
I was there when Big Daddy Kane brought out Jay-Z for the first time.
I want y'all to be some friends of mine, okay? I want y'all to put your hands together for my brother Jay-Z.
And Jay-Z started spitting, and you knew he was special because at the time, Big Daddy Kane wore the crown.
He had it.
For him to bring a young boy out there in Manhattan to get that boy to spit, there was things like that that was legendary to me.
Me and Pac went in the studio and did a song together. And then them little dudes.
Outlaws.
Yeah.
Oh.
They came, like, as soon as we got there, they came up to Pac talking about, yo, Lauryn Hill dissed you, Mobb Deep dissed you, this and that, and da. So then Pac went in the studio and started writing some about, I think it might have been that.
Hip-hop's biggest success story isn't what you think it is. For 30 years, we've been sold a lie about Jay-Z's rise to power. The truth, he built his empire on calculated betrayals, hidden cowardice, and strategic elimination of threats. Big Daddy Kane just shattered that carefully crafted image forever. What you're about to see connects 3 decades of suspicious behavior, from mentors he abandoned to legends he feared, to modern artists he systematically destroyed. This isn't just hip-hop beef. This is the truth about a man whose billion-dollar legacy is soaked in jealousy, spite, and blood. The receipts are undeniable. Look, we've all been betrayed by someone we helped, but what you're about to hear will make you physically sick. Jay-Z wasn't some discovered genius waiting to be found. This man was getting rejected by every single major label in the industry. Kane had to literally burn his own reputation, trying to get this: nobody, a deal. The humiliation Kane endured shopping Jay-Z around should have been a warning sign, but Kane kept believing, because that's what real people do. They fight for others even when the whole world says no.
Jay-Z, I heard that no one really wanted to sign him when you were shopping him around the record labels. Is that true?
Yeah. This was, I want to say, I don't know, 90, 91 maybe. We was, we recorded some songs, probably about 4 or 5 songs on Jay-Z, and shopped them to several different record labels, and they all passed. None of them could see the vision. But I'm gonna be honest with you about that. I'm glad, because I don't think that dude would be as successful and billionaire that he is had they signed him. Because this is when Jay was doing that, that fast rapping stuff, what him and Jazz O created. So he was doing that fast rapping thing. And, that style, it was hot for a minute and then it kind of went away, I think Twister may have been the only one that really survived that whole, era of that, So, I don't think that Jay would have really blew up had he came out, with that flow.
So the label's issue with him was his flow?
Yeah. It was like, with some people, they didn't, like the flow. With some people, they didn't like the image. It differed, but, nevertheless, we couldn't make it happen.
Can you imagine the embarrassment Kane felt walking into label after label, vouching for someone who couldn't even get a meeting? Kane looked like a fool because of Jay-Z, but he kept pushing because he saw potential where others saw nothing. That loyalty Kane showed would soon be repaid in the most disgusting way possible. But Kane had already seen the warning signs that should have made him run. He knew exactly what type of person Jay-Z really was. And what he said about Jay's character 30 years ago will chill you to the bone.
Jay was more quiet. But I learned that Jay was being quiet because he was taking notes. He was taking notes, observing everything, taking it all in. Because, sometimes you're around and you're watching to see things to do. But some people are around watching, seeing what not to do. You get it?
That's how Kane described Jay-Z's behavior 3 decades before any of us understood what that meant. Kane said Jay was the type who would quietly observe the scene, studying everyone and everything, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That wasn't just an observation about Jay's personality. That was a warning about his character. Kane literally told the entire hip-hop community, that Jay-Z was calculating and patient in the most dangerous way possible. But nobody listened because we were all too busy watching the performance. The way Kane described it, Jay-Z had this ability to sit back, watch how everyone moved, learn their weaknesses, and then position himself to attack when people least expected it. Kane saw this pre-dream behavior and tried to warn us, but we were blind to what was really happening. But Jay's snake behavior got completely exposed when he encountered someone who couldn't be manipulated, couldn't be used, and couldn't be controlled. Someone who saw right through his fake persona and made Jay-Z feel like the fraud he really was. That person was Tupac Shakur, and their first real interaction set the stage for everything that would follow. Kane was actually there when it happened, witnessing the moment that would create hip-hop's most vicious diss track and reveal Jay-Z's deepest fears.
Me and Pac went in the studio and did a song together. And then them little dudes.
Outlaws.
Yeah.
Outlaws.
They came, like, as soon as we got there, they came up to Pac talking about, yo, Lauryn Hill dissed you, Mobb Deep dissed you, this and that, and da. So then Pac went in the studio and started writing some about, I think it might have been that.
Think about what Kane just described. He was literally in the studio when Tupac wrote Hit 'Em Up, the most devastating diss track in hip-hop history. But what Kane didn't say is why Tupac had such a visceral reaction to Jay-Z specifically. This wasn't just rap beef or competitive spirit. Tupac genuinely despised Jay-Z on a personal level because he could see through the act that fooled everyone else. Tupac knew Jay-Z was fake before fake became Jay-Z's brand, and that recognition terrified Jay more than any diss track ever could. The fear was so deep that when both men found themselves in the same city, Jay-Z's true cowardly nature got exposed in the most pathetic way possible. Gene Deal, who was there and saw everything, just revealed how scared the so-called King of New York really was when faced with real authenticity.
The story is that Jay was gonna try to perform in Vegas, but Pac was in Vegas, and him and his dudes now. And they wasn't gonna let Jay-Z come out the hotel. They found out where Jay was at. And Jay wasn't gonna come out the hotel. He was gonna miss that performance or whatever like that. But then Dame Dash called some people and they got back to Chaz and they made some phone calls. And Suge Knight had said, yo, that ain't me, bro. That's Pac with his wild self, man. I'm gonna call him off Jay. So he called the dogs off. Suge called Pac and they let Jay go do his concert and everything like that. You know what I'm saying? There was something that Big D and Chaz, you know, they took and I think probably Eric B, they talked to Suge about it and Suge talked to Pac and he allowed Jay to do his concert.
So Tupac, he found out Jay-Z was performing in Vegas and he tried to stop that from happening. But after Suge Knight spoke with Tupac, he ended up performing.
Yeah.
So that story really is true. Tupac, he really had an issue with Jay-Z. He really didn't like him then.
Not at all.
This is the same man who talks tough in songs, who claims to run New York, who built his entire image on being untouchable. But when Tupac was alive and in the same city, Jay-Z was literally cowering in his hotel room, like a scared child. The man who would later claim to be the greatest rapper alive was too terrified to leave his room because someone with real talent and authentic street credibility was nearby. But here's where Jay-Z's cowardice nature really shines. The moment Tupac died and couldn't respond anymore, suddenly Jay-Z found his courage. DJ Clark Kent just exposed the most cowardly move in hip-hop history, and when you hear this, you'll understand exactly who Jay-Z really is beneath all that manufactured bravado.
Jay did a record going at Pac, but right as it was about to come out, son died.
Wow.
We performed it though.
Yeah? Where'd you perform it?
Performed it once, and you have to understand, like, the chip on Jay's shoulder is so crazy that it's just like he had to perform. We was at the Apollo.
Wow.
We was at the Apollo and he performed it and it was scathing. Like crowds was like, oh! Like it was super hard.
Wow.
Super hard. Like if he was alive, there would have been no coming back. Like nothing.
Like going into like super ugly territory?
No, this was so tough. Like it, to me, it probably was like one of the hardest diss records I've ever heard. It's because we were like, what the we got to do about this? With this why you, you know what I'm saying? And oh boy.
When's the last time you heard it?
We only heard it maybe like 3 or 4 times. We heard it before when it was made, and then we heard it at the show, and then it went away.
Wow.
Jay-Z literally waited until his biggest fear was silenced forever before he felt brave enough to perform his diss track. That's not hip-hop. That's grave dancing. That's the behavior of a coward who only feels safe kicking people when they're already down. While Tupac was alive, Jay-Z hid in hotel rooms. But the second pack couldn't fight back. Suddenly he's performing diss tracks at the Apollo Theater. But if you think this jealous, calculated behavior was just old hip-hop drama, you're completely wrong. Jay-Z has been using these exact same tactics to destroy people for decades, and the victims are finally speaking up. The pattern Kane identified 30 years ago has become a systematic method of operation that continues to this day. Modern artists are now confirming what Tupac knew back then. Jay-Z can't stand competition, and he'll use his power to eliminate anyone who threatens his fragile ego.
Jay-Z has exhibited signs of envy, jealousy, hate, and stopping bags behind the scenes, allegedly. Why is it always the same story? So that means Nas made all of that stuff up. DMX made all of that stuff up. He was beefing for a minute with, 50, with Dame and Dipset for a while. And isn't it interesting how many feuds, even with females, that he's allegedly been behind as well? What about all of the people who have made...
Nicki Minaj just confirmed what we've been building up to. Jay-Z's entire empire is built on sabotaging others rather than elevating himself through genuine talent. The snake behavior Kane warned us about has evolved into a sophisticated system of career destruction. When Jay-Z got real power as president of Def Jam, that's when the destruction became systematic and personal. LL Cool J, a genuine hip-hop legend who paved the way for everyone in this culture, found out exactly what happens when you're successful enough to trigger Jay-Z's insecurities. What LL experienced should terrify every artist in the industry.
Well, I'll address it on a lot of different levels. As far as me going at Homeboy, look, my bottom line, my job is simple. I need my records promoted. People have to understand that when they talk about LL, you're talking about 24 years.
Okay.
Not 12.
Not 12.
And when you talk about LL, you're talking about 1984 and me starting the label. You know what I'm saying? Me, Russell, and Rick actually sitting there and starting Def Jam. So I'm not, like, I don't begrudge nobody their success and anything that's happening in their lives. And I hear a lot of silly about people talking about, like, I want a job up there. Like, what part of me being LL Cool J makes somebody think I want a job at a record company? Like, I don't know where people get that idea from, but that's like a fantasy. Because the reality is, I turned them records, that job down 10 years ago. And I'll tell you why. Because just because you can bake a cake, you know what I'm saying, doesn't mean that you're qualified to run a bakery. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I never felt like I had the experience to do that job, so I didn't take the job. So people need to understand that. And as far as going at Jay, it's nothing personal. Like, this is purely business. Like, all I wanted him to do, all I want the record company to do is promote my records. I'm not looking to assassinate anybody's character. I'm not looking to degrade nobody. I ain't got to do that. Why would I need to do that? I mean, I'm going on my 13th record. And not my 13th record because I jammed 13 albums in the 12 or 13 years. I'm going on my 13th record in my 24th year of my career. I'm doing very well. I got Grammys on the wall. Everything is right. You know, so, you know, people when they look at me, they got to understand who's talking. You know what I'm saying? This is like, I'm not new to this. Like, I do this for real. I've been doing this. And, you know, a record needs to be promoted. And if somebody gives you their word, they got to keep it. It's as simple as that. So as far as me trying to degrade Homeboy or begrudging someone's success, it's impossible because I'm successful. Extremely. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have to play those games. You know, I'm like some new cat that's looking to pick at somebody or take shots at somebody. I'm not looking to do that. They didn't promote my record. I want my records promoted, and that's what it is. And I met with them and told them the same thing to their faces. So this is not, you know, and as far as people talking about, oh, well, he could have got this person on the phone, I called. You don't pick up the phone, I fire a shot in the air.
Decades of bad stories. That's not coincidence. That's a deliberate pattern of behavior. LL Cool J is like the uncle who helped raise hip-hop, and Jay-Z tried to destroy his career because he felt threatened by LL's legacy and respect in the culture. Every time someone has an issue with Jay-Z, people want to call it hating, but the evidence shows something much darker. This is systematic of power by someone who can't handle other people's success. The most disgusting example of Jay-Z's jealousy might be what he did to Colin Kaepernick. When Kaepernick was sacrificing his entire NFL career for social justice, risking everything to fight for what's right, Jay-Z saw an opportunity to make himself look good at Kaepernick's expense. Even Kaepernick's wife can't defend what Jay-Z did to her husband.
I might not like what Jay-Z did, but guess what I don't do? Go out of my way to not play his songs on my show. No, I'm not spiteful. I don't try to harm people. I don't do smear campaigns behind the scenes.
And don't take away from his artistry.
I don't ever do that. We're clear. Jay's one of the best to do what he does. Also, what he did to Colin was absolutely wrong.
That admission from Nessa cuts deep because you know she wanted to defend Jay-Z, but the betrayal was too obvious to ignore. Kaepernick lost everything fighting for justice, and Jay-Z used that sacrifice as a stepping stone for his own image rehabilitation. That's not just career sabotage. That's moral bankruptcy from someone who pretends to care about social causes. But Jay-Z saved his most calculated, most psychologically twisted move for last. Remember how terrified he was of Tupac? Remember how he couldn't even leave his hotel room when Pac was in the same city? Remember how he only felt brave enough to perform his diss track after Tupac was dead and couldn't respond? Well, Jay-Z found a way to own Tupac's legacy forever, and what he did represents the ultimate victory of a coward over someone who terrified him. Jay-Z paid $384 million for all of Tupac's unreleased music. Let that number sink in for a moment. This isn't a business acquisition. This is psychological warfare from beyond the grave. Jay-Z waited until Tupac couldn't object, couldn't fight back, couldn't expose him anymore. And then he bought control over Pac's entire artistic legacy. Through all of this destruction and betrayal, Big Daddy Kane has been watching. The man who made Jay-Z's career possible, who saw his snake nature from the very beginning, who got completely erased from the success story he helped create. Kane tried to warn us about Jay-Z's character 30 years ago, but we were too distracted by the performance to see the predator.
Tupac is a lyricist. See what I'm saying? It's just that he's not one of those lyrical MCs that spit stuff, but his stuff is, he spit deep lyrics that touch your soul. So I do consider Tupac a lyricist. You know what I'm saying? Even though his stuff is about substance, I do consider him a lyricist, because it's like this here. You have to be lyrical to touch someone's soul, to make someone feel like, yo, I don't know this man, but he knows my pain. You see what I'm saying? So I do consider Tupac a lyricist. I would never, ever say that he's not a lyricist.
Coming from Big Daddy Kane, one of hip-hop's most respected and technically gifted lyricists, that statement about Tupac carries enormous weight. Kane knew real talent when he saw it, and he knew the difference between authentic artistry and manufactured success. But Kane's validation of Tupac's greatness makes what happened next even more disgusting. The industry conspiracy that destroyed Tupac wasn't just about East Coast versus West Coast. It was about eliminating someone whose talent made everyone else look fraudulent, and Jay-Z was right in the middle of orchestrating it. The truth about how this whole mess started has been hidden for decades, but industry insiders who were there are finally talking. What they're revealing will make you understand that Jay-Z didn't just benefit from Tupac's death, he actively contributed to the circumstances that led to it. The calculated moves that Kane warned us about weren't just about career advancement, they were about systematic elimination of superior talent.
You gotta go back to Brooklyn's Finest. I was dead set against it. I was telling Jay, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And he was like, why? And I was just like, Big he's too strong. I said, but before we take over the world, we got to take over the West Coast. Before we take over the West Coast, we got to take over the East Coast. Before we take over the East Coast, we got to take over New York. Before we take over New York, you got to take over Brooklyn. And he owns all that. That's why Pac was Jay, because of Brooklyn's finest. If they have twins, you probably have two Pops. Get it? Two Pops. And Jay's on the record with him. So now he's like, you, ain't no like me, Jay-Z. Then he start bombing on Jay. So Big was a mastermind and involved this real ill in both the streets and the lyrics and kind of paired up with him.
Irv Gotti just confirmed what many suspected, but nobody wanted to say. Jay-Z started the entire East Coast-West Coast escalation with Brooklyn's finest. He deliberately inserted himself into a situation that would inevitably lead to violence, knowing full well what the consequences would be. This wasn't artistic expression or competitive rap. This was calculated provocation, designed to create chaos that Jay-Z could benefit from later. Even his own people were telling him to stop, but Jay-Z was obsessed with pushing this conflict forward. Irv Gotti literally begged Jay-Z to back off from dissing Pac and Biggie because he could see where it was heading, but Jay-Z refused to listen. This proves that Jay-Z wasn't caught up in the moment or making emotional decisions. He was coldly calculating every move, knowing that the destruction of Biggie and Tupac would clear the path for his own rise to power. The most chilling part of this conspiracy is that Tupac saw it coming, even from prison. Pac understood exactly what Jay-Z and his associates were trying to do behind the scenes. He knew Jay was positioning himself to benefit from the chaos, knew he was feeding the East Coast-West Coast fire for his own gain, and knew that Jay was counting on Pac's destruction to clear his path to the top.
Study why I would be mad when half of New York, half of the major New York rappers, or they managers, or they agents, or they somebody was there when I got shot. And nobody couldn't give me no information. Just study that. Study how when Wu-Tang got their chain snatched at 6'6" Deuce, I not only found who did it, but gave them the message that if they want to see the that did it, they can see them. Man to man. Just you and them. No guns, no nothing. If you feel like that. That's all I ask for. That's all I ask for. If you're going to act like you a gangster or a G or the king of New York, I'm going to expect that. And when you don't come through, then I'm going to want to crush your empire. And that's what it's time for.
So do you think Puffy was involved in the shooting?
Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I wouldn't say things that I knew, you know what I mean? I believe so. I do believe so. I have proved things that I can say that will back up my claim, but this is not for the world to know about. You know what I mean? It's between me and him, and only he knows. So every time he say it didn't happen, or that's the only thing that makes this become an issue to everybody. Because you seen what I said in the Vibe article. I basically bowed out and was gonna go ahead about my life. The next issue, that wasn't even the next issue because them cowards waited about 4 issues before they got their story together. 4 issues later, half of New Yorkers commenting on me getting shot. And before, they was all like, we didn't see nothing. In the first issue, read it, Vibe viewers. Nobody seen The 4th issue, when they came back with a reply, everybody knew what I did. They knew what I said. I was acting. Who gets shot 5 times in acts? Oh, I didn't get shot 5 times in their vision. I only got shot once because they found the bullet. The police found it, but now they the cops. Now they doing detective work. They found the bullet. Oh, you found the bullet, huh? So what is this other in me then? What was the doctors talking about? What? Can you explain these other holes in me? How'd I get gunpowder all over me? That insulted my intelligence. So yes, I did say Thug Life was there. Yes, I bowed out, all of that. But when they said that, they breathed new life in me. And Thug Life not only became a rap group, but it became a way of life for life for me. Because they disrespected me, my name, my family, what I had been through. They said that I couldn't be in pain. I could not feel, I could not be hurt. In my moment of pain, when I was shot 5 times in jail for a crime I didn't commit, while every other black person, whoever they was babies in the or killing and cutting them in 50 pieces, these got support. I go to jail for a crime everybody know I did not commit, get shot 5 times, and I'm getting in jail, wompty. They just saying anything to assassinate my character. What that showed me, remember this lack of a conscience when I come out. Remember this lack of mercy when I come out.
But here's what makes Tupac's response so calculated and powerful. Tupac chose not to destroy Jay-Z completely, even though he easily could have. Hussein Fatal, who was there and witnessed everything firsthand, just revealed how Tupac made a strategic decision that would haunt hip-hop forever.
He wasn't really stressing Jigga. He just felt like, you know, Jay-Z, see, like Pac, man. You could say he seen Jay-Z before he even came. He knew what it was gonna be. Right now, he probably knew Jigga was gonna be where he at right now, because he probably heard it. He knew niggas out there wasn't spitting like Jigga was spitting, so he probably heard like this the only nigga that could really, you know what I mean, fuck with me if it came to that. So he probably just attacked him on that alone. But I sat down with Pac, man. I used to tell Pac, like, look, man. See, I used to be like, yo, man, Jigga don't got nothing to do with that shit. So that's how that was. But I was telling him, like, look, certain ain't got nothing to do with that shit. Niggas ain't spitting at you like that. And you know, he listened. That's how come if you listen and hit him up. Hit him up. When the tape came out, when he was blacking on Jay-Z, they edited that part out. He don't say nothing about Jay-Z on Hit Him Up. Like when he be wilding at the end. But he said something, but I was like, nah, he don't got nothing to do with that. So on the strength, he just edited that out. You know what I'm saying? But he still was saying this little just, you know, on some just in case. So that's when them after he died, gonna release all this. You know what I mean? He talking about Jigga, he talking about the Brat, he talking about the Fuji. But it wasn't really like that.
But to understand why Jay-Z was so threatened by Tupac, you need to understand what made Tupac irreplaceable in hip-hop culture. It wasn't just his technical skill or his controversial image. It was something much deeper that Jay-Z could never replicate, no matter how much money he spent or how many ghostwriters he hired. Ludacris, who witnessed Tupac's impact firsthand, just explained what made Pac untouchable.
Like the Tupacs, may he rest in peace, the B.I.G.'s, it would be in the same conversation and category of what we arguably talk about as the greats. And why I say that is because you could tell that they eat, breathe, sleep, rap, music in the studio, like just giving their heart. And I always say, you know, Tupac, I don't think there's any artist that's ever been that has had that type of emotional impact on human beings the way that he was able to just transfer what was going on in his heart through them damn speakers when you listen to it and affect people the way that he did. Now, there are some people that came close, but this is just my personal opinion, man. That Tupac, sheesh. But that's what I would say. Those are some of the professionals, I would say.
Emotional intimacy with their listeners. That's what Jay-Z could never fake or buy or steal from someone else. Tupac had a genuine connection with people that went beyond entertainment, beyond performance, beyond the business of hip-hop. He was like a Pied Piper for young artists and fans because they could feel his authenticity through the speakers. That connection terrified Jay-Z because he knew he could never compete with something real. Fat Joe witnessed the exact moment when Jay-Z's calculated takeover began. And what he saw proves that this was never about organic talent rising to the top. This was about strategic positioning by someone who understood that authentic voices like Tupac had to be removed for manufactured artists like himself to succeed.
I was there when Big Daddy Kane brought out Jay-Z for the first time.
I want y'all to meet some friends of mine, okay? I want y'all to put your hands together for my brother Jay-Z.
And Jay-Z started spitting, and you knew he was special because at the time, Big Daddy Kane wore the crown.
He had it.
For him to bring a young boy out there in Manhattan to get that boy to spit, there was things like that that was legendary to me.
Fat Joe witnessed the moment Kane made Jay-Z's career possible, putting him on stage and giving him the platform that would eventually become a billion-dollar empire. But what makes this moment so significant is understanding what came next. Jay-Z took that opportunity Kane gave him and used it not just to build his own success, but to systematically destroy everyone who had more authentic talent than he did. The pattern is undeniable now. Kane gave Jay-Z his big break, and Jay-Z repaid him by trying to erase Kane from hip-hop history. Tupac showed Jay-Z mercy by editing him out of Hit 'Em Up, and Jay-Z repaid him by contributing to the conspiracy that led to Pac's death. Every act of kindness, every moment of genuine support, every display of authentic talent became a target for Jay-Z's calculated destruction. That's the real legacy we're looking at. Not a business genius or a hip-hop pioneer, but a jealous opportunist who spent 40 years eliminating anyone whose authenticity made his fake persona obvious. And now, finally, the people who were there and witnessed it all are telling the truth about what really happened. After seeing all this evidence, all these testimonies from people who were actually there, can you still look at Jay-Z the same way? Can you still call him the GOAT, knowing that his entire empire was built on the graves of better men who showed him nothing but loyalty and support? If you like this video, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on any new videos. And until then, fam, keep it real.